All right. Welcome, Blake Dozier and Cory Jessee, to the Self-Employment Success Podcast. Excited to have you guys here today.
Thanks for having us.
I'm excited for today's conversation because you guys bring a lot to the topic of self-employment in a lot of regards. First being that you guys are a partnership, and clearly you're so in sync that you're talking the exact same way into the microphone. So I'm excited to hear more about what that's looked like. And your business is one that not many people would jump in and say, that's my first choice of business to run, which is a janitorial business. But you guys clearly have seen a ton of success there, and I'm excited to talk more about what that's looked like over time. But to get started, tell me a little bit about yourselves, your families, and then where OnPoint, your business, is today.
Yeah, so I'll go first. Blake Dozier. I grew up here in Virginia Beach, married to Caroline. We have 4 awesome kids. Twins that are 9, a little girl that's 6, and a little boy that's almost 5. Lived here my whole life except for college. Spent 4 years at Hampden City College, about 60 miles southwest of Richmond, and 1 year doing a leadership internship in DC. But I moved back here because I love it, and it's my favorite place. So that's why I live here. My whole family's here as well. So.
Yeah, I'm Cory, as you said, and I grew up in Warm Springs, Virginia, so Bath County on the other side of the state, and went to William & Mary to play football. Met my wife there. We got married right after college. We have 2 girls, 6, Ryan, who's 6, and Carter is 3, almost 4. Live in Virginia Beach and love it, and have been here for over 10 years now.
That's awesome. So, well, in the midst of having 4 and 2 young kids, that is almost a small business in and of itself when it comes to time and energy. But tell us a little bit about OnPoint, what you guys do, and what it looks like today.
Yeah, so Cory and I, I'll let him talk about it, but he came from a business background, had owned multiple businesses right out of college and grew them and sold them. And I wanted to get into business as well. And I had friends in the janitorial industry in other states. And so I had a commercial real estate background. I worked for CBRE doing leasing warehouses and office space, things like that. And I wanted to parlay that, get onto the ownership side and some sort of a small business operating company. And I really like blue collar businesses. We call them sweaty startups. And
that's an awesome name.
Yeah, I like them for a number of reasons, but mostly because a lot of people think they're too good for them or don't want to do them. And I think it's a great place to care for people and care for customers in a really unique way that is in a space where a lot of people just don't have a lot of training or experience with relationships and caring for people and customers. So,
Yeah, to kind of build on that, I mean, as Blake said, I started in business pretty much right out of college. My dad was an entrepreneur and had a business partner, Blake's dad as well, but he's always worked for himself and had a business partner also. And at one point along the way, I was doing small business or like lower middle market mergers and acquisitions, helping people buy and sell different businesses. And a janitorial company, came across the desk and thought it was something that needed another look, and ended up connecting with Blake and another partner at the time. And we pulled the trigger and ended up, doing janitorial, and it's a totally different business today than it was then. But it was a platform, and we started and just hustled or got sweaty, to use Blake's terms, and went after it. That's right.
And so how many buildings do you clean? How many employees do you have? What would you say is like the size and scale of your business right now?
Yeah, buildings is probably a hard one to quantify in a conceptual way because they're all different sizes and different makeups. But we're
160, 170.
Yeah.
Okay.
The employee count's probably easier. We're probably around the 340 mark right now.
Oh man, that's a big deal. That's a lot of people to manage.
It's a lot of folks. Yeah.
Okay, so you've got this successful business now. You're serving hundreds of properties with hundreds of people. But back then, kind of had a heart for business, both of you. had a heart for sweaty startups, Blake and Cory, this janitorial business comes across your desk. Had you guys talked about the janitorial? Because Blake, you said you had relationships who also did janitorial in other states, and then Cory sees one come across his desk. Was that the connection, or was it totally random? Cory, you see this business, you bring it to Blake. Blake says, I know someone else who does this.
It was actually pretty providential, I'd say. He had no idea that I was looking for a janitorial company to buy.
Oh, wow.
I literally, the summer before that, I'd been talking with a close friend about doing a small janitorial company together, like starting one for years. And finally we were like, we've been putting this thing off and, kicking the can down the road. Like, let's just do this. So that summer I made an LLC. I made a brand and a logo and a website, and I just parked it all and didn't launch it and waited to find a company to buy. Mm. And over the course of the fall, I kept dreaming about what this thing could look like and working on figuring out looking for a business to buy. And I knew Cory from church, and he literally brought it to us and was like, hey, would you ever consider, specifically our other friend had another sweaty startup type business. He said, would you ever consider adding this to the business that you have? And he's like, this is crazy. I'm actually looking for that exact type of business.
Wow.
So yeah, it's pretty wild. So
yeah.
That's how the three of us ended up doing together.
Okay. That makes more sense, and is also not what I would have expected. I mean, that is the word providential.
Yeah.
We're already looking for this, and you just come with, hey, here's an opportunity. Would you be interested in that?
Yeah.
And so what did those early days look like? Because I don't think you start off with having a team of people cleaning. Were you guys doing the cleaning yourselves? It's a sweaty startup, so talk about what that looked like.
Yeah. I mean, any business that you're going to start by yourself, you're usually the one that is out there doing the service until you can hire someone to do it. That type of building is pretty natural in businesses. For us, we had, most of the accounts staffed, I would say 95% of them. And there's generally some turnover in janitorial, but we had customers, and we had a team to execute the work for those customers. And we were kind of coming in as the management and the sales and all of that stuff. And it just took years to kind of build it over time to the type of customer that we wanted. And we slowly were able to add management to kind of separate, this didn't get cleaned. Mm-hmm. So, from us being the person to go do it to having someone in between us and the cleaners do that. And then, and now we've just, slowly built a team and added customers and just kind of seesawed our way up to where we are.
Mm. And okay, so you were at the point where someone would say, hey, this didn't get done, and you're leaving your house at 10 p.m. at night to go.
Or it's not going to get done. This person's sick, or their babysitter called out, or they got a flat tire. We get a lot of flat tires.
And they're the only person that cleans that particular location, because that first business we bought had a lot of small accounts that we wouldn't actually take on now. As we've gotten bigger, we've raised the minimum size of an account that we go after, because we're actually better at servicing big accounts than little ones. Mm-hmm. We've learned, some economies of scales and things to make those, we're more well suited to those. And we got rid of the residential division that we had that was part of that first company, sold that off, and really have focused more on more of a niche.
It's interesting you say that. In my industry, there's a phrase, the riches are in the niches. And this idea of, if you are trying to be a generalist, I'm trying to clean homes, I'm trying to clean construction sites, I'm trying to clean corporate buildings, I'm trying to clean everything, you don't end up scaling as quickly because your marketing isn't as specific. If I own a corporate building and I'm looking for corporate cleaners, and I see that you kind of do that, but you also do all these other ones, I'm less likely to go to you than I am to going to the corporate cleaning person who all their marketing, all their sales are towards that. So it sounds like that was your experience. Hey, we started off kind of cleaning whatever we could, and then over time worked our way into a service model and a specific type of building that we know well, we know we can do well, and it provides scaling opportunity. Is that correct?
Yeah, that original business that we bought, we actually don't have any of those accounts from that, because they were all not the type of accounts that we want now. But what it did was it gave us the opportunity to start with some revenue and with some staff and with some equipment and some vehicles that came with the purchase, and really just gave us a platform to go out there and start our business with something. And it was so small that in the beginning, it didn't have enough revenue to pay both of us. And I stayed in my other job, and he would call me in the afternoon and be like, all right, we have 3 bank branches that need to get cleaned tonight that people have called out. One's in Northern Newport News, one's in Moyock, and one's in Suffolk. Do you want to split up or do you want to go together? I'm like, well, let's go together. It's more fun that way, and we'd end up at the end of the night at midnight at AJ Gators, or right before close at AJ Gators in Moyock or something, getting a burger and a beer after we'd clean 3 bank branches all over town.
Spending more time driving almost than actually the cleaning.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then we were the floor techs too. We were the ones who did all the tile and grout and the pressure washing outside on the sidewalks and, all the extras that had to get done. That was us that would do that back then. And, after I'd worked in my other job all day, and then I would go out in my lunches and before work and send out emails and phone calls to, my old relationships in commercial real estate, right? Property managers that I knew, and be like, hey, I've got this company now. Can I bid on some buildings, please? Yeah. And I, was able to, talk some people into letting us bid on some larger properties so that, in the winter, the January of 2016, we started several large high rises, and that's when I came on board with actually getting paid.
And that's when I was able to pay myself.
Yeah.
Which is a momentous occasion for any self-employed person, when you're like, okay, I can start paying. Like, I can see the reward of this, not just out here running this business and sweating. There's so many questions that came to my mind based on all of that. I'll start with, for the purposes of listeners who may be thinking about mergers and acquisitions, or I feel like there's different mindsets about and paths that you can go to start a business. Some people will just bootstrap it and run with it. I feel like you find that more in profession, or like lawyers, financial planners, things like that. But for a profession like yours, where you need staff, vehicles, equipment, I don't know that, you may have been experts in like what cleaning supplies did what, but maybe that was a learning curve for you. What did that look like from a purchasing a business perspective? Did you get a loan? Did you have angel investors? I guess, how'd you go about that?
Yeah, we've done several deals since the beginning of starting OnPoint, and it's been some of our best growth is through acquiring other businesses that typically the owners either are tired of it or want to go do something different or just want to retire. And the strategy is different every time. That there's usually different circumstances, different customer makeup, the whole deal. But it's kind of a combination of cash up front, some seller financing, depending on the type of deal, and then some bank financing where necessary, where you need to add it in. But we could do a whole separate podcast on M&A.
I know. And well, I had that thought. I was like, I need to get Cory back here because he had a whole background in M&A.
It's been great for us, and we've leaned on it pretty heavily to spur a lot of growth, and we will continue to, but at the same time, it's a lot of work. And the last one that we did doubled us in size, and
the one before that doubled us in size too.
That's true. Yeah.
That's 2017.
So before, when you're smaller, you just don't have as many systems, you don't have as many processes, and when you double in size, you're essentially merging cultures and who's going to win and what's it going to look like. And, and we spent, a solid 6 to 8 months on this last one, just getting those details ironed out and building trust and building relationships and stuff like that. So,
yeah. And I'm assuming that's building trust internally and externally, like with customers.
1,000%.
Where you're like, we have a whole new team of managers that are coming in and cleaners, and they don't know us. And for an employee, that can be intimidating, having your business sold or merged and having new bosses come in. But then also for your customers, and customers might, you guys can speak to this. I would assume that it might be a little bit easier because you can send out messaging that says, we're really excited about this. This is kind of how this is going to benefit us and you. And or providing the same level of service, your account's not going to change or whatever. But yeah, would you say that was for both internally and externally, like keeping accounts and keeping employees?
I would say definitely. Yeah. I mean, we're a relationship business. We are selling to a customer and have to have a relationship with that person. And generally have to work with them, weekly, monthly at a minimum. Most of them are daily that we're working with or seeing. And then internally, we've got a lot of employees, and it's a business built on relationships. And if we're not good stewards of those, we're not going to be successful. And that's probably been the center of what we've tried to do is just foster good relationships and pour into those folks.
Speaking of relationships, one thing going back to the mergers and acquisitions thing, when you buy another company, a lot of people think, well, yeah, I got equipment, I got vehicles, I got contracts, new relationships with customers, which all those things are true and all reasons to purchase another company. One of the biggest things for us, especially with both of the last two acquisitions we did, was the people that we got. I would say most business owners would probably say the hardest thing about business is finding good employees. When you buy a business from somebody who's been grinding in that business for years, like they've spent years trying to find and keep good people. And so we were the beneficiaries in both of those cases of some unbelievable people. If you came into our office and looked at our staff, both in our office and then, beyond, people that are managers or clean all over town for us, we have so many great people that came from somebody else at another company, one of those two companies, doing a great job at finding good people and caring for them well. And we're just basically trying to continue that tradition of caring for them well and trying to create a great culture in an industry that's really hard to create great culture.
Yeah, that's a great transition point because you guys are humble. I don't know that you guys would bring this up, but you were voted one of the best places to work in Hampton Roads, or maybe even beyond Hampton Roads, a year or so ago, which is interesting because you're going up against, startups where they have, ping pong tables or law offices or white collar business. And so to have a janitorial business, very blue collar, voted as one of the best places to work is a huge statement. And so speak to that a little bit, because I know we're talking about the power of relationships, power of caring for not only your customers, but your employees, and attracting and retaining people of value and quality requires caring for them.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of the service profit chain?
I have not.
Okay. It's a little bit of the secret sauce, but it's hard enough to do that I don't mind sharing it with you.
Okay.
This one's for free.
This one's for free. The service profit chain is essentially most people think about, you get a customer, you serve that customer, they pay you, and that's as big as the circle gets. And for us and that methodology is way more focused on the employee. So if you care for that employee and you pour into them and they feel cared for, they will stay with you. And one of those components is certainly compensation, but most studies will show that it's the least significant component of why people leave. And when they stay, you're then providing a more consistent service because that person understands the nuances of serving your customer, which then provides a more consistent service, which the customer is happy with. The customer is less likely to leave you, and that in turn produces, long-term profits and long-term relationships. So it's kind of inverse. Most people are just just serve the customer, make sure the customer's happy, but you don't have happy customers without happy employees. And we emphasize that in our leadership training from top to bottom. And if you come to work at OnPoint and you're hired, you're going to receive retention calls that ask how your job's going, how was your training, is there anything that you need, do you understand everything that we're asking you to do? You're going to receive a thank you note.
Cory handwrites thank you notes for every new employee.
Oh my gosh!
Thanks for joining our team. You're going to receive a birthday card. You're going to receive a certificate on your annual anniversary. And that's just kind of where we've started. We've got a goal this year to really ramp up, employee care and drive retention, because we don't really have a problem hiring folks. There's always folks looking for work, part-time work. The name of the game is can you keep the good ones? And I kind of call it panning for gold. There's a lot of, when you got that pan, there's a lot of rocks that are in there, and there's folks that are just looking to pay off a bill and they're only looking for a couple months worth of work, but there's gold in there. And there's people that, I can't tell you how many people we've flipped from a full-time day job that, salary, benefits, the whole deal, to come work for us full-time, because they've experienced that, we're genuine in who we say we are. It's feel a little arrogant saying that, but we really try to pour out for them. And that's at the heart of who we are and what we believe. We're believers. We believe in Jesus, and that. Hopefully our folks feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We really want them to see that without us outwardly saying it. Right. We have people like yesterday. So we have multiple employees who have started as part-time cleaners, and they've grown into unbelievable managers. And Cory has created this entire leadership training program that he takes them in. And they come into our managers come to the office 2 to 3 times a week for training sessions with Cory, and he takes them through all these like podcast, YouTube videos of these leadership experts from across, Patrick Lencioni, Craig Rochelle, John Maxwell, all these leaders. And anyways, we have this, one in particular as an example, started as a part-time day porter here in Town Center, probably back in 2017. And she's grown to be one of our best managers. And what's really cool is when we're younger in the business and our businesses are smaller, Cory and I owned every customer relationship at every phone call, and everything came to us. And what's really neat as we grow is we have this vision of being a place where blue collar people and cleaners can grow from maybe a part-time job that was just to make a little bit extra money into, this is my full-time career, and I've got salary and benefits, and I have upward mobility and a place to grow, and something that they can give them vision beyond just that like part-time job to pay off that bill. And that employee in particular, I was in a customer meeting with her here in Town Center yesterday, and I didn't need to say anything because she sat there and just crushed it with the customer. Like, she's relationally awesome. And I attribute that a lot to her. She's just awesome. But also, like, we've worked really hard to teach our people how to serve customers in the way that we did early on.
Gosh, every time you guys talk, there's just so many nuggets built in there that I want to go back to. But going back to that service chain and the idea of to care for your employees creates a better work environment so they stay, which creates continuity of service, which creates a better client relationship. It's so interesting because you're right. So many people would look externally. If I create a good relationship and I just serve my customer, which we do personally too. Like if I can just work and change the external circumstances, then my life will be great, which so many times that's out of our control. Like you could do everything great for a customer and they could still leave. But to work internal and work your way like inside out first, both in your business, caring for your employees and creating a great work environment, will then create better customer relationships. So customers are less likely to leave. And that's something that's in your control. I just feel like I was just thinking that's the same thing for anybody personally, like working on yourself on the inside, working on the things you can control, working on growing yourself, and then the outside external will naturally improve as opposed to starting on the outside and working your way in.
Yeah. I mean, no question. And I think it's way harder, right? To figure out what it is, that thing that you need to work on internally. It's a way longer road, but it's a more sustainable road. And the alternative, like you said, just trying to deal with the external factors is just whack-a-mole. I mean, you're constantly chasing your tail and trying to put out fires, and you just become so reactive.
Yeah. Gosh, I love the focus on even just the vision of if we can really care for these people, it could change their lives. They could come in saying, I just need to pay my rent. I just need to pay this bill. I'm going to get this part-time job. And sometimes people in that circumstances, they've never even thought beyond that. You know, there's a psychological law of survival where you can't look long term.
That's right.
And so to be able to give them a place where they feel cared for, that provides stability for their life, and then to give them vision and a road to get to that vision is just incredible. It's work that is beyond just the dollars and cents and the profit and the customers. That is life-changing work that is going on at your business, which makes sense now that we've talked about it, why you guys were voted best place to work. So tell me a little bit about y'all's relationship. So business partners, met at church. Would you say the business or the partnership is mostly business, mostly friendship, both? Kind of tell us a little bit about that dynamic.
Yeah, I'd say that we have a pretty good mix of both. We have a lot of similar interests, similar sense of humor. So we just have a lot of fun together at work. And then, we hang out a good bit outside of work too. We're both hunters. We do some hunting together, fishing together. Our families and our kids hang out. But I think what makes our partnership really successful is the fact that we have really complementary skill sets, and we have a deep respect for each other's skill set and ability to add value to the business and really to each other's lives. I personally this business would just sometimes just not be that fun if Cory wasn't there with me. At the size we are now, a lot of people like to have their own big office and everything. We choose to still share an office, and we sit back to back, and we've kind of siloed more, where I focus more on the business development side now, and he focuses more on the operations side. But we still run a lot of decisions on the other person's, with the other person, and kind of grind these decisions to dust together, to sort of, really have good discernment on the decisions that we make. And, it gives me a lot of peace of mind knowing that I've got him at my back, so, yeah.
Yeah, I would echo all of that. I mean, it's I think that, earlier on, you don't know so many things. You don't know what you don't know, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure every startup business or small business kind of feels that way. And as we've grown, you see the same problems from time to time, and you recognize okay, here's that pattern. Here's how I need to solve this problem. And we've just gotten better over time of being able to silo, because we've worked so well and so long together. So it allows us to kind of specialize a little bit, but at the same time, when there's a big hairy one, we're putting our heads together with our team and trying to figure it out, because, generally there's always something that we haven't faced. So
a big hairy one at the sweaty startup.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. He's really getting it here.
I would say, I've had multiple people over the years, and before I got into the business, say don't have business partners. It's really relationally difficult. They don't work out. But yet I watched my dad have a successful business partnership for 30 years with a business partner who he's still friends with, and is my godfather. And Cory had a similar situation, over 30 years. And so we saw that it could happen, and we kind of come from a heritage of that. At the same time, the third business partner that we had, that was one of our best friends, we bought him out a couple of years ago, and that was relationally painful in certain ways. And, so we've seen how things, in business you can really have a hard time relationally. And so we work really diligently to, stay reconciled and, kind of put the other one first. So there's no room for selfishness.
Yeah.
I was actually having a conversation with another financial planner who does a lot of business, working with businesses, yesterday. And we were talking about this idea of business partnerships and how it can be just really messy. And he was saying of his clientele, the ones that work. He was saying after one meeting, he can tell they're going to be fine or this is going to go in a really poor direction at some point.
That's cool.
And he was saying the biggest thing is what you said, like identifying the other person's strengths and having a deep respect for that. He was like, if the business partnerships who they know, they're humble enough to say, you're better at this than I am. And so I want you to take that and we can work to each other's strengths. That is the relationship that will survive. But if you're both trying to do the same thing, if you're both playing in the same arenas in the business, he was saying it just oftentimes becomes too difficult over time, or it's great for 20 years and then you hit the one big issue that you guys just fall apart on. And so I definitely think it can happen, but I think that's one of the reasons why people say don't get a business partner. It's like, you don't want to test the relationship. You don't want, the business to fall apart because of it. And that does happen for people. But I think what you guys have is that secret sauce of knowing each other's strengths and having the humility to say that.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. And I think the other component to it is, most entrepreneurs are pretty good at winning. And I mean, there's plenty of businesses that fail, but by the time you've made it to some level of success, it's really easy for that pride to seep in and like take over your heart. And yeah, I just feel like humility is a big thing for both of us and for our culture in general. It's not going to be a good fit to work for us if you're not humble. I mean, you're just not going to enjoy it. And because it's so much of it, we kind of exuded a little bit in our office, and most of our folks are just excellent at what they do. They are experts. They're crushing it. They don't do anything without excellence. But they're still humble. And I think that, we've just kind of almost jokingly make fun of ourselves. We don't take ourselves too seriously. We're janitors kind of thing, and knuckle dragger type folks are just, we've grinded before and we're not afraid to do it again. It's not fun, but if we had to, we would. And that type of humility is just really easy to lose once you've tasted a little bit of success. And, I mean, that would be my encouragement for any entrepreneur out there is just stay humble, because, success is not owned, it's rented, and the rent is due every day, every freaking day.
I need to get that. Yeah, I was going to say tattooed on my butt, but I should just put it. I should just put it on the wall somewhere.
Yeah, the other thing I was going to say is success in business looks different at different stages. So when you are, a couple $100,000 a year in revenue business versus a $10 million a year in revenue business, it takes really different skill sets, and your day is going to look completely different. And so when you grow, you're having success, but sometimes the biggest enemy to success can be your growth, and that you can't reinvent yourself and grow as a person to be able to become the leader that you need to be to run that business now that it's bigger and you have more layers of leadership. So that's something that we've tried to do, is like spend a lot of time like listening to content, reading books, really audiobooks because we're not good readers, but in this stage of our business, we're thinking about things like going into other markets and starting new branches. And like, that wasn't even on the radar, 8 years ago when we were painting bank branches at night and not getting paid.
You might have been thinking, what else can we do? But it wasn't in the way that you're saying.
Right. I had vision for growing it, but like, it's a way more, as you grow you get closer to it and it becomes way more specific. And so now we're having to learn how to reinvent ourselves and continue to drive the vision higher and further, and then cast that vision for our team of leaders that we've built. So
on the journey to success for you guys, what has surprised you the most about your journey so far?
I would say the people. I mean, I feel like we're just if we're proud of anything, it's our people.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
Yeah. I don't know that there would be anything else. I mean, the stories that you get from people, the nighttime janitorial world there's always a few stories that'll surprise you, but
you think you've heard it all. You're wrong.
but we've just got just dozens of key leaders that would just make life a lot harder to not have. And they're awesome.
That's awesome. And what was the low point in the journey?
It's been several. It's hard.
Yeah.
What'd you say, Blake?
I think definitely our partner buyout with one of our best friends was super painful.
That was hard.
Still painful to this day. That gives us all the more warning and incentive to make sure that we are good caretakers of our relationship now. Because neither of us want to go through that again.
Yeah.
And so, I think there's been a couple contracts over the years that we, one in particular I can think of that we had a lot of emotional connection to because we put our heart and soul into it for years and served the customer what we felt like was like really excellently. And, to the point where Cory and I are out there till 11:30 at night doing the work ourselves or managing people and cleaning carpet and doing inspections at 4 a.m. and, going above and beyond. And, the owner says, put it out to bid, cause it's time, it's been so many years and take the lowest bid on everything. And we didn't raise our price at all. And somebody low bidded us and that was it after 4 years. And so, I was pretty devastated by that because I felt like I'd put so much hard work into that relationship, Well,
and that one in particular was one of the ones that was when you came on full time.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
that allowed me to come on full time.
It was
with the company and quit my other job. And,
and we're human. We've failed plenty, but I feel like we've learned from our failure and we really use it as a tool to get better. And we try to push that with our folks as well. Like, hey, don't be scared to fail. You're going to make a mistake. If you're not making mistakes, you're not taking risks. And you've got to kind of get out there and play in the street a little bit and let's see what works. Find your style. And sharing some of that ownership. Ownership mentality is one of our core values at OnPoint, and allowing people to make a mistake without, consequences and repercussions. When they feel that freedom to be able to do that and they find a little bit of success, like they're going to fail some, but when they find what works, they're going to crush it for you.
We, losing that contract in particular, that I think was actually good for us in the long run. Because we really at that point hadn't lost very many contracts at all. And so there's a little bit of like a pride and a hubris that comes along with like, you feel like you're crushing it because you just don't lose contracts, and in this business, it doesn't matter how good you are. It just takes time to see it. Like you can be crushing it on so many levels for a customer. And there's multiple reasons that you can lose a contract, whether you're doing a great job or not, customers move, the owners just take the lowest bid or,
Property manager
changes and has a relationship with somebody else. I mean, there's so many reasons that, you can lose a contract in this industry and you really just have to go out there and crush it for all your customers every day, and keep doing a good job because some customers are going to leave you for it's your fault. Some are going to leave you. It's not your fault, but you just got to go out there and keep doing your thing.
And this is a podcast about success, but that word success means different things to different people. So for you guys, it can be together or individually. How would you define success for yourself and how will you know when you've achieved it?
Yeah. I'm going to kind of beat the same dead horse here, with our people. I feel like we've realized a decent amount of success just in, Blake brought up the particular individual that was a, part-time day porter riding the bus to town center to work a shift to, being an account manager over, 80 people, something like that. And we've got several of those stories. And I think that, as we've kind of merged these two companies and we've got over 300 some employees now and we look to the future, because we've kind of stabilized things and we've merged these two businesses. It's going to be, what's that? How do we define? You're asking me how do I define it, but how do we define what success looks like in the next level? When we take our team to the next level, when we take our business to the next level, what are the seats that are going to be open? What seats are going to need to be filled for us to get there, and who's going to fill them? And how do we need to train and develop and care for our folks so that they're ready to take that seat? And to me, that next level will be, it'll be huge. It'll be super gratifying for them because they've worked hard, and whoever they are and whatever seats they end up looking like. But we're kind of fleshing that out now. And what does it look like to go into another market? What does it look like to open another branch and have somebody that was just an account manager and area manager go start that and give them the tools they need to be successful. And so the people.
Yeah, I'd say when somebody shows up for you, for your thing every day for years, it's a humbling thing. I mean, to me, the money comes and goes, but money is just it's a number. It is what it is. It's a measure of success, I guess. But like what I will remember is the relationships. When I look back, when I'm one day, if I ever retire, when I look back, it's going to be the relationships and like the time spent doing fun things with our people, and the conversations had over meals at the office, and the times that we, went dumpster diving for keys in the dumpster, in the early days of when somebody threw a key in the, with those people that we did that with, that are still with us. And, those are the things, I think those are really the spice of life of business is the time spent doing things with people and those relationships, and how grateful I'll be that those people, chose to ride this ride with us continually.
Yeah, I think the phrase that comes to mind is, people, nobody's ever on their deathbed and it's like, man, I just wish I'd spent more days in the office. And I totally take vacation, spend time with your family. Please don't ignore your family for your business. Right. But there's a certain component to that where they just don't have fulfilling work, or they're not fulfilled by their work. And they're kind of looking down on it in those later years of life. And I just think that life's a little bit too short to not be fulfilled by the work that you're doing. And we're passionate about people and relationships, and that's what we spend our time on. And yeah, I don't think I'll regret those days.
Yeah, hopefully we'll do a good job, or have done a good job, and we'll continue to do a better job at helping our people see the purpose behind what we do.
Man, that's incredible. And it's an incredible place to leave you guys. Thank you so much. I mean, this has been an incredible conversation, and I feel like you guys are walking like inspirational leaders. I feel like I need to pay you to like come speak at a conference on leadership and business and relationships. But
we're excited to see what you're doing with your business. Yeah. You're crushing it, and
one day it's a sweaty startup. Currently.
Yeah, it's really exciting to see how you're helping so many people around town, and it's giving peace. I mean, I like the name PeaceLink is perfect for what you do, because you're really giving peace to families, financial peace, and beyond. So it's really cool to see how you started it and how you've grown it, and how you're helping so many people around town. So
I appreciate you saying that.
And beyond here.
I appreciate you saying that. It's been so fun. I love every second of it. Well, thank you guys for being on the podcast today.
Thanks for having us.